Hello friends, it's Chris coming at you for another episode of Marketing for the Rest of Us. And tonight we're talking about having a path, not a program. What we don't need is another program. What we do need, however, is to find our path. So let's unpack this, shall we? For years, I used to call myself an insight junkie. I loved personal development. I still do. I love personal development. I love conferences, books, podcasts. Partially because I'm curious. I'm a curious soul and I want to hear what other people think about the things that interest me. And so that's cool. But for the longest time, what I would do is I would go out and because I would see, read and consume a lot of ideas and then see different programs, books, or coaches as people who had answers that I didn't have. I mean, that's why I went to the books and the conferences, right? Was like, you have an answer and I haven't seen this yet. And so I always felt like I was one book away from my breakthrough. I was always one coaching call away from my breakthrough. And this was a really, this is such a slippery slope, you guys, because we can wander in the wilderness for years looking for this mysterious breakthrough, right? This unicorn of a moment that on the other side, we finally figure it out. And I stayed in that wilderness. I wandered in that wilderness for so long. And it's really frustrating, right? I mean, right? Tell me it's not. It's so frustrating to feel like you're on the right path, to feel like you are awakening to something in you. You're like, this is the right direction. And then to want that goal or that dream so bad to be like, I've set how many years have you set the goal, right? How many years have you set the same goal? Only to never reach it. You're like, this elusive goal, like I will get this. If it is the last thing I do, I will reach this goal. And at least that's how it was for me, right? And it can be consuming. It can be consuming. And you will sacrifice relationships. You'll sacrifice your sanity. There's a lot of things we'll do in the name of reaching this goal. And that's, in some ways, it's a good thing. Like your determination is on point. Your determination is one of your strongest qualities. You wouldn't still be in business for yourself if you weren't so determined to get where you want to go. And I like that. I like that about me. I like that I also call it stubborn, but I like that I'm stubborn for the things that I really want. But I don't want to be stubborn and continually chasing this idea of a dream and a goal in the wilderness only to never reach the goal. So over the last year or two, I've started to notice that there is something else that I have been missing that I didn't know to look for. And that was my path, right? A program is like a snack. It's like a one-off piece of information, a bite, right, of information. It's a meal. And I consume it, I learn what I learn, and then I move on to figure out what's next. But do you see, like after I finish the book, I still am no clearer on what's the path. What is the path to my goal? I realized that by reading that book, hiring that coach, going to that conference, I got some ideas about how I could get to my goal, but none of it resulted in my own path. Now, I may have been to conferences, read books, and hired coaches who gave me their path, but I didn't feel any closer about finding my path. And do you see that is the, what's the word? Paradox? I'm not sure if that is the mysterious, wonderful thing about this lifetime in this game is that you will look outside of yourself for answers that crack the code to you having all the riches and desires that you want for you to live the life you really want. And it's not until you start to look inward for you owning and defining your own path that you see clearly. Like that is where you actually begin to see clearly. Because once you have, at least this is how it's been for me, once you have clarity around your path, like what you're here to do, you're like, no, this is where I'm going. This is the path I choose. And I'm the one who chose it. I'm the one who designed it. Nobody can design your path. Do you hear me? No one can design your path. They can design their path. They can give you information that would help you define your path. They could even offer you programs or a sequence of programs that would help you define your path. But do you see at the end of the day, it's you consuming all of that information so that in order to make your path clearer, cleaner, wider, straighter. So, for example, I offer programs, right? I've learned some things along the way about how to market in a way that works for me and how to help people virtually through online programs. I used to do one-on-one custom coaching. Now I can actually help people and facilitate change in their world through online programs in a group. And it's amazing. I love it. But these programs or sequence of programs that I offer to other people are designed to help them inform their own path. And so we spend a lot of time in these programs helping them look at who they are and what they're here to do, and then customizing the things we walk through so that those things fit them specifically and uniquely. At the end of the day, gang, it's you owning where you want to go and then designing the path. It's your path. And if you buy a book, if you listen to a podcast, if you hire a coach, if you join one of my programs or somebody else's program, your responsibility is to listen for the information in terms of how it informs the design of your path. You don't buy the book and hope that the book is the secret, the secret to what you've been missing. You don't hire the coach and hope the coach cracks the code and gives you the magic bullet. All of the data, all the input, all the incoming information, regardless of the source, is there for you to listen for and see the clues that will help you build your path. And if you do that, then here's what happens. You start to have this contentment about the process. There's a contentment. Before I found my path, there was discontent because none of the books I read answered the question that I didn't know to ask. Right? In other words, the question I didn't know to ask was, what is my path and what do I really want and how do I really get there? That's the question I didn't know to ask, and it was just living under the surface. So I would buy a book, hire a coach, go to a program, and I would go through hoping that it gave me the answer, and it never did. And so I would be really frustrated with the fact that I wasn't any closer to my goals or clearer about how I was supposed to proceed than when I started. And that is not a place of contentment. But the good news is, on the other side of realizing that what I was missing was a path that I defined, that I owned, that I'm creating. Now I can climb that mountain or that path, and I can read books, and I can buy programs, which I do, and I can hire coaches, which I do. I can go to events and conferences, which I do. But I'm doing them for a different reason than I used to. I used to go hoping maybe this will be my breakthrough moment. And now I'm like, no, the breakthrough moment isn't a moment. The breakthrough happens by me defining my path and then steadily, consistently plodding along my path year after year after year. Some of you don't want to hear this right now, but that's the path, right? Is year after year after year going down the path that you defined. And until you start to go down the path you defined, you're going to continue to wander over here, off target, off task, wondering why you don't have a breakthrough. And especially in light of all the books you read, all the conferences you've been to, all the coaches you hired, And you're going to be like, why do I still not feel content? Why do I still not feel any closer? And it's because there's a question under the surface that you don't know to ask right now. And that is, what is my plan and how do I get there? And the punchline of this whole thing is like, you're the only one that gets to decide. So to recap the headline here, right? You don't need another program. What you need is a path. You need your path. And you can buy programs. I'm not saying programs are bad. I have programs for people, right? But you buy the program to inform your path. You can't abdicate responsibility for the defining of your path. The way to your goal and the life you've been wanting is for you to say, this is where I'm going and this is how I'm going to get there. And now I will consume content that informs that path. And that changes the game. So thanks for hanging out with me in this episode of Marketing for the Rest of Us. Until tomorrow when we show up again, here's to you finding your path.